The first gunshot cracked through the bustling mall like a thunderclap. Time froze for a heartbeat. Then pandemonium erupted. Screams shattered the weekend shopping atmosphere as people scrambled in blind panic, trampling displays and each other. The Westfield Plaza Mall teemed with weekend shoppers. Families choosing school supplies, teenagers lounging at the food court, elderly couples window shopping. A typical Saturday afternoon in suburban America. The gunman appeared without warning near the central atrium, waving a semi-automatic pistol and firing twice into the ceiling. Security guards froze, shoppers dropped their bags, and parents clutched their children. Mass confusion followed as conflicting shouts of "active shooter" spread to the crowded corridors. Mall security, armed only with radios and pepper spray, backed away helplessly. The emergency exit nearest to the food court was chained shut for repairs. The PA system blared ineffective instructions that nobody could hear over the chaos. Emergency response dispatchers reported police were at least 17 minutes away due to a multi-car accident on the highway. People rushing blindly toward exits created dangerous bottlenecks. Each passing second widened the window for potential casualties. Jason Reid noticed the gunman before hearing the shots. The retired Delta Force operator's trained eyes had caught the unusual bulge beneath the man's jacket and his tactical scanning of exits. Jason had brought his teenage daughter and nephew for back-to-school shopping. Now, as others froze or fled, a familiar calm settled over him. His posture subtly shifted, eyes narrowing as he assessed the situation. 10 years with the military's elite counterterrorism unit had prepared him for exactly this scenario. Jason's mind processed the scene with military precision. The gunman, male, late 20s, agitated movement patterns suggesting limited training but high volatility. Weapon, likely a Glock 9mm from the report sound and visible profile. 2 shots fired, suggesting at least 13 rounds remained of standard capacity. The shooter constantly touched his right pocket, possible second magazine. Jason scanned for tactical features. For visible exits, 2 now congested with fleeing shoppers. Security cameras could aid situational awareness, but no way to access feeds. Food court offered minimal cover, but numerous improvised objects for distraction. The central fountain provided potential concealment. Move to that clothing store, Jason whispered to his daughter and nephew, gesturing to a shop with narrow entrance and multiple racks for cover. Stay low, move casual until you're inside. Then get behind the register counter. His tone conveyed authority without panic, the same voice he'd used directing special operations in Kandahar. The situation deteriorated rapidly. The gunman began moving toward the west corridor, where a children's play area was located. Mall security attempted to approach from behind, but retreated when the shooter fired another round. A woman pushing a stroller found herself directly in the gunman's path, frozen in terror. Jason noted with growing concern that the north exit had been locked down by panicked staff. At least 30 shoppers were now trapped in that section. Among them, an elderly man had fallen during the rush and couldn't get up. 2 security guards were arguing about protocol instead of helping. This is going south fast, Jason thought, recognizing the hallmarks of a deteriorating tactical situation where confusion multiplies danger exponentially. Jason tried signaling to a security guard, but the man was focused solely on his radio. The mall's emergency protocols were clearly failing. Evacuation routes became congestion points rather than escape paths. Direct confrontation with the gunman carried extreme risk with so many civilians in potential crossfire. The standard run, hide, fight protocol wouldn't work for mobility-impaired shoppers now trapped. From his position, Jason could see the security office door locked. The fire alarm might force emergency doors open, but could also trigger sprinklers, creating slippery floors and worse visibility. Conventional civilian crisis response options were rapidly disappearing. Jason felt his pulse steady as training took over. This wasn't his first crisis, just his first without a team or equipment. He recalled Colonel Miller's words during urban hostage training. Your greatest weapon is situational control, not firepower. The familiar mental clarity of mission focus settled over him. Background noise faded as his mind compartmentalized emotions. Fear became data. Anxiety transformed into heightened awareness. This wasn't about heroics. It was about applying proven tactical principles to protect civilians. Not today, he thought, the same words he repeated before every high-risk operation. Not on my watch. The Delta Force mantra calmed his mind as he formulated his approach. Jason rapidly cataloged available resources. Mall construction provided numerous choke points that could channel movement. The maintenance closet near the bathrooms likely contained tools. Clothing racks could create temporary barriers. Several athletic-looking men nearby might serve as impromptu team members if properly directed. He noted 3 off-duty nurses still hiding behind a kiosk. Identifiable by their scrubs, potential medical assets if needed. His own skills: unarmed combat, tactical movement, crisis leadership, psychological de-escalation. No weapon, but extensive training in improvised response. Most valuable resource: time. Police would arrive eventually. His job wasn't to neutralize the threat, but to control the situation until they did. Jason's mind flashed to the Delta Force training facility in North Carolina. Rain-soaked and exhausted, his team had practiced civilian extraction from hostile environments for 18 straight hours. Their instructor, a veteran of multiple hostage crises, had drilled one principle repeatedly: control the environment, control civilian movement, then address the threat. Reverse priorities get people killed. He remembered the team's urban warfare exercises, clearing rooms while protecting non-combatant role players. Communication is your primary weapon, the instructor had emphasized. Clear commands save more lives than clear shots. The methodology was ingrained. Assess, communicate, control, neutralize. The same principles applied whether in Baghdad or an American shopping mall. Jason took a deep breath and shifted from civilian shopping dad to operational mode. Instead of confronting the gunman directly, Jason devised a sectoral evacuation plan. He would create micro-safe zones by utilizing Mall's horseshoe layout, systematically moving civilians away from the threat while maintaining orderly movement. Controlled chaos is the approach, he decided. Using store security gates to create funnels for movement would prevent stampeding. The service corridor behind the food court could serve as an extraction route for those trapped in the north section. Most importantly, he needed to implement psychological control measures, keeping voices low, movements deliberate, and establishing clear leadership to prevent panic from spreading. He created the illusion of structure in chaos, something his Delta Force training had perfected when extracting hostages from marketplaces in hostile territories. Jason seamlessly adapted military tactical communication to civilian use. Using the hand signals familiar from room-clearing operations, he motioned for nearby shoppers to stay down and move along the wall. Simple gestures anyone could understand under stress. His voice automatically shifted to what his team called command clarity. Low, even tone instructions that cut through panic without adding to it. Move to the blue sign. Wait there for my signal. He directed a family, pointing clearly. No unnecessary words, no emotion that could trigger more fear. He positioned himself with tactical awareness. Back to wall. Clear sight lines of both exits and threat, maintaining what the military called dominant orientation in the space. Without weapons or armor, he was applying battlefield spatial control to create a civilian safe zone. Jason quickly identified potential allies: a former military man by his stance, an off-duty firefighter wearing a department t-shirt, and a calm woman who had been directing children away from danger. "I need your help," he told them directly. "I'm Jason, former military. We're going to create safe extraction paths." Their eyes registered recognition of his authoritative but controlled demeanor. He assigned clear responsibilities based on immediate assessment of their capabilities. "Sir, you manage this exit flow. No more than 5 people moving at once. Ma'am, gather children and elderly here behind these concrete planters. You direct people along that wall using these hand signals." Within moments, his impromptu team was functioning with basic protocols and designated zones of responsibility, a civilian version of a tactical response unit. The operation began with methodical precision. Jason positioned his team members at strategic points, creating a controlled evacuation network. "Remember, calm movement only, no running," he instructed. "Wave people through in small groups, maintain spacing. As the first group of shoppers moved toward the service corridor, Jason monitored the gunman's position, using reflections in store windows, a surveillance technique from his military days. When the shooter turned toward the food court, Jason signaled for movement to pause. His team adapted quickly, learning to read his signals and relay them down the evacuation line. Shoppers responded to the structured approach, panic subsiding when given clear direction. The measured evacuation continued in control waves, each successful group building momentum for the systematic extraction process that was now fully underway. The situation reached critical mass when the gunman turned toward the children's play area, where 3 families remained trapped, unable to reach exits without crossing the shooter's path. Jason's gut tightened. Children changed everything. Distraction required, he thought, reverting to tactical shorthand. Without hesitation, he signaled his makeshift team to continue the evacuation process, then moved purposefully toward the food court. Grabbing an abandoned shopping bag, he deliberately knocked over a metal trash can 30 feet from the play area. The noise drew the gunman's attention instantly. Jason stood partially exposed, calculating that the shooter would focus on the new potential threat rather than the hidden children. "Hey!" Jason called, voice firm but not threatening. "Everyone's evacuating. Let's talk about getting you out safely, too." As the gunman swung his weapon toward Jason, time seemed to slow. The combat awareness state Delta operators called tactical time dilation. Jason maintained precise control of his positioning, keeping exactly 27 feet between them, beyond lunging distance but close enough for psychological engagement. His body language communicated neither threat nor fear, maintaining the neutral but authoritative posture taught for hostage negotiation scenarios. His hands remained visible, slightly raised but not surrendering. When the gunman's finger tensed near the trigger, Jason noticed and immediately provided verbal engagement. "The police will be here soon. I can help you end this without anyone getting hurt." His voice remained steady, using measured pacing and tone modulation techniques developed specifically for high-stress civilian encounters. The trapped families began moving quietly towards safety. Jason positioned himself to become the focal point for the gunman's attention, deliberately drawing potential danger away from others. He had ensured his daughter and nephew were safely evacuated with the first group, but had returned to help strangers, the same commitment that had defined his military service. "Sir, I understand you're making a statement here," Jason continued, slowly shifting his position to maintain the gunman's focus while the last child was quietly guided to safety behind him. He was establishing what hostage negotiators called artificial connection, creating perceived rapport to stabilize the situation. Each moment he kept the gunman engaged was another moment for evacuation to continue. Jason accepted the personal risk with the same calm resolution that had earned him commendations in combat zones across 3 continents. Jason recognized the psychological window opening. The gunman's increasing verbal engagement suggested escalation was peaking. Using Delta Force de-escalation protocols, he maintained conversation while subtly signaling approaching security personnel with military hand gestures behind his back. "You've made your point powerfully today," Jason acknowledged, applying active listening techniques while noting the shooter's increasingly erratic eye movement, a precursor to decision stress. "Everyone knows something significant is happening. Let's make sure your message gets heard the right way." When the gunman momentarily lowered his weapon while responding, Jason gave the predefined signal. Mall security and the off-duty firefighter moved in synchronized response, not aggressive confrontation, but coordinated containment, applying perimeter control techniques Jason had quickly taught them. The situation stabilized just as police tactical teams arrived, allowing for a control handover. As police secured the gunman, the emotional aftermath unfolded. Parents clutched children with shaking hands, tears streaming down faces. An elderly couple Jason had personally guided to safety embraced him, the woman sobbing, "Thank you," repeatedly. The mother whose stroller had been directly in the gunman's path approached Jason, her toddler sleeping against her shoulder, shock and gratitude mingling in her expression. "How did you know what to do?" she whispered. Children who had been in the play area looked at Jason with wide-eyed wonder, one boy asking, "Are you a superhero?" Jason crouched to the child's level, the same way he'd been trained to build trust with children in war zones. "No," Just someone who learned how to help people. He responded gently. The collective relief was palpable, transforming strangers into a community bonded by survival. Police confirmed that all 157 shoppers and staff had been safely evacuated. Only 2 minor injuries occurred during the initial panic. The gunman surrendered without further violence. The police captain later told reporters, "Without the organized evacuation, we could have faced a much worse scenario. When people run blindly in these situations, casualties multiply." Someone here knew exactly what they were doing. When journalists identified Jason as the coordinator of the evacuation, he deflected praise. "I just applied training I was fortunate to receive," he said, looking uncomfortable with the attention. The real heroes were ordinary shoppers who stayed calm and helped each other. When pressed about his military background, he simply shrugged. "Delta taught me that quiet professionalism saves lives. It's not about one person. It's about everyone working together." The incident dominated local news for days. Social media filled with first-hand accounts praising the military guy who took charge. The mall announced enhanced security protocols and emergency response training. A viral video showed Jason directing the evacuation, generating thousands of comments from veterans and civilians alike. Community forums discussed the value of having veterans integrated throughout society, bringing unique crisis management skills to everyday scenarios that law enforcement couldn't immediately address. In his only formal interview, Jason articulated the principles behind his actions. Military training isn't just about combat. It's about protecting people, staying calm under pressure, and taking responsibility when others can't, he explained. Veterans bring these values everywhere we go. We're trained to run toward problems, not away from them. That mindset doesn't disappear when we take off the uniform. We're still committed to our communities. 6 months later, the mall unveiled a discreet plaque honoring the courage and leadership that prevented tragedy. The incident sparked a countywide program connecting veterans with emergency response training for civilians. Jason occasionally spoke at these sessions, emphasizing preparedness over heroics. The mall shooting became a case study in how military training creates civilian protectors, everyday heroes whose greatest service may come long after their formal duty ends. Have you ever been in a situation where specialized training helped you respond to an emergency? Veterans and first responders bring invaluable skills to our communities every day. Share your thoughts about civilian crisis response in the comments. For more stories about military heroes saving lives in everyday situations, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell.